we have, like I said, two awesome professional business owners and entrepreneurs and learn how to do things tonight. I've got tonight with us business owner Will Taylor. I'm gonna bring him in right now so you can see him. And there's Brother Will. Everybody knows him as Deacon Will. He's usually in the back of the church helping everybody. Now you sit here, you sit there. A lot of y'all know him, and some of you might remember that years ago when we were real tight, he was telling, "Come on, come this way." And some of y'all said, "I don't want to sit over there. That's not my chair." And he'd have to tell you, "Get in place. I told you what to do." And then we have another person that's very personal to me. Um, he is one that, in fact, I'll tell you, he wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for me today. I'm going to introduce to you for those that don't know him and for those that do know him, my oldest son, Bobby Williams, and he is a branch manager at the Delta Credit Union in Atlanta. Now, Bobby, hello, and Will, hello to y'all both.
Hello, Bishop.
That's good. That's good. Now, Will is president and owner of Alabama Industrial Supplies and Services, which he sells industrial products and equipment to the utility and construction markets. I remember when Will came to me with a concept. He said, "Bishop, I got an idea of things I want to do." And he said, "I just want to share that with you. And I want you to pray about it." And Will prayed about it. And Will followed what the Lord told him, and he's very successful in his business right now. He's originally from Mississippi, and I will tell you there are some good things that come from Mississippi too. You all know Mississippi can produce some good crops over there, and they can produce some fine women. I know that because my wife is one of them, and she's from Mississippi, and Will's from Mississippi. And he developed an early love for business stemming from the many hours that he was working with his father in their family grocery store and other entrepreneurial ventures. So we're going to learn from him. He graduated from Mississippi State University with a mechanical engineering degree. I bet y'all didn't know that. And he worked for nearly 30 years in various engineering and management positions until he realized that God had given him a divine potential. While working with those other companies, he had a desire to start a company that would be a blessing to many and offer life-changing experiences, that those life-changing experiences that he did from working with others and working with his father never went away. So in 2015, he started that business called the Alabama Industrial Supplies and Services. And we're going to hear from him in a moment. And now Bobby's the branch manager of the Delta Community Credit Union. Let me tell you about my oldest son. Um, he is one that he is he's just done a phenomenal job of actually doing things on his own. I mean, he got out there and he started working, um, and went away. He left the city, got away from me, got away, and it just put things together on his own because he's a determined person to be successful and to use the gifts that God has given him. He studied finance at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And in 1999, after receiving his Bachelor of Science degree in Commerce and Business Administration, with a concentration in banking and financial services, all that stuff degrees, Bobby accepted a position with Wells Fargo Financial in Tyrone, Georgia. I told you, he got up out the hand, left everybody, and went on his own. And it was while working at Wells Fargo, Bobby consistently prepared. Now, this is why you need to listen to him in a moment. He prepared and closed up to five, at least minimally 560,000 to $1 million in business monthly by making outbound calls to potential prospects and discovering the needs that people had that would match the various Wells Fargo products. He was a blessing to Wells Fargo. And he interviewed loan applicants, that people that need loan for your business. He analyzed and investigated financial information to structure various loans for those people so that they could do their businesses and other credit advances for approval. Today, I'm really glad to say that Bobby's branch manager of Delta Community Credit Union, and he manages, get this, y'all, talking about potential. the second highest producing branch in terms of loan growth, producing 15 to $20 million per year in Atlanta. So as you can see, our speakers today are knowledgeable and they come with years of experience and success, which allows them with their knowledge, and this is part of their giving back to the community, which is very important as children of God, that we don't just take all God has given us for ourselves, but they are going to share with you tonight some of the things that can help you be successful. So, for the presence of the Lord, I'm going to pray right now. Lord, you've gifted us all with special gifts and talents. And I pray that everyone that's listening to this program, Lord, will recognize that it is your desire for them to be fruitful in the thing you have blessed them with. I pray that with wisdom and knowledge that they'll gain tonight, that they'll begin to see that they have the ability to excel and not fail at those things you've gifted them to do. Help them to realize that since man cannot create anything, the ideas that are unique and different have come from you, and you've given them those ideas so that they can use it to be fruitful and be a blessing to this generation in their life. Father, I thank you now that for those, for Bobby and for Will, bless them and give them the words to speak, that they'll be a blessing to those that are listening, and that those that are listening will hear and be encouraged also to do and to think, to, to operate in their gifts and callings to glorify you. We pray this now in Jesus' name. All right. So let me just begin. Will, if you would, how about start off by sharing with us what your business does, and just a little bit about yourself. Feel free to talk about it because you've got the business. You had to go to people like Bobby, I guess, in order or to get the money. And you got, I suppose you, I don't know if you did or not, but I know that people do need money to start business. You might have saved yours. You might have been blessed so much. And then being an engineer, you worked for Southern Company, didn't you?
I work for Southern Company. That's right, Bishop.
And you, I know you made big bucks with them. Wasn't like being a preacher or nothing. You probably had all the money you need to do your business. Talk to us about it. We'll share with us for the moment.
Well, thank you, Bishop. I appreciate the opportunity. As you mentioned, my company is Alabama Industrial Supplies and Services, and a lot of people ask the question of what are industrial supplies. I answer it such from a customer perspective that it's anything that a construction project, a utility might need, anywhere from safety supplies, welding, pumps, and piping and small motors, things of that sort that will help a facility operate. We do some janitorial supplies. We've got a contract with the state of Alabama and a few other things. But just to kind of mention my background, as you said, I worked for Southern Company for almost 30 years. And during that time, wonderful company, was very blessed. It allowed me to do some other things, but always felt the urging and the burning desire to do something else, to take what I had learned and to really be an example to my children. And it, through a lot of lessons and learnings from being at the Guiding Light, that God was building something in me, and I had to test that thing and had to confirm as you and I talked, is this what God is leading me to do? And I'm being honest, probably that early desire was to, you know, have the ability to make your own money, your profit, have freedom and flexibility. But that over time really grew to uh, wanting to build something that would be a blessing, not just to my family, but to be a blessing to others. And I say that that's what we really, really try to focus on. And God has really done some great things. And it hadn't been, always just so easy, but God has been steady in how he's blessed. And so we've been in business 6 years, and we grew from working out of a smaller building, and now we've we moved to another building, and now we've moved here, and we've got a warehouse, and we've got a few things, and so over the years, God has just continued to open some doors, and we see some good things for the future.
Well, now, Will, we're talking about capital and everything. That's what
Yeah,
most people usually talk about. Uh, and you talk about, you said pipes and stuff.
yeah,
That took some money to get into that, didn't it?
yeah.
Now, again, was that just the silver spoon you were born with working at your father's grocery? Or did you have to get money to start this up? How did that come about?
Yeah, Bishop. Yeah, you're right. Partly using some money that I saved, but I learned in small business that can get ate up real quick. And so, as that started depleting, I did have to reach out to banks.
Mhm.
And I was fortunate to start with a small line of credit, to start with a couple of credit cards. And then as you prove yourself worthy, you increase that over time. And so, I remember I may have started with $10,000, and now we've, got up to $1 million line of credit. And so that allows you, as you bring in business, to buy stock and replenish stock and grow piece by piece. But it's always a starting point. I think most of us in business, we want to start big and see it grow, within a short period of time. But I would say, you step through it and watch what God does to open up the business, and the customers drive the revenue and the profit that allows you to do other things. So to answer your question succinctly, yes, I did eventually have to get a line of credit, but I didn't start out. I did have a little bit to start with.
Mhm. Well, okay, and I guess I'm getting what do they call the cart before the horse, because we got to give God the glory here. Um, and I should ask you the question first of all, where did this concept, how did you get the concept that I'm going to do that's going to provide supplies for businesses? How did that come up? And I'm going to actually put you on the screen. I'm put you on real big on the screen so folk can hear this. Where did that idea come? I'm pulling myself out and Bobby for a minute to do this. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, and let me know if I'm not talking loud enough. Bishop really started back when I worked with Southern Company many years before I left Southern Company, retired early. It was trying to find opportunities to do something. I did a little real estate at the time. Back in 2008, 9, of course, the market crashed, and that had to close that side of the business. But what I started thinking, and I really believe God just kind of led me to this, is with the company that I worked for, what were some of the needs that they had? And where were there opportunities for a small business to jump in and serve that need? And it just so happened that it really started with it was a business that I had associated with where we repaired tools and we sold tools. So it started just with power tools. And then from there, in working with the customer and again, getting some opportunities to sell, they say, well, we need safety, we need welding supplies, we need environmental supplies, we need these things. And I never forget one of the buyers had mentioned, said, well, we need somebody that can get us just about anything that we need. And that opened my ears and my eyes to see that the customer had a need. If we service that need with quality and excellence, they'd open up and allow for us to serve more needs. So that's how that kind of grew. But it really started thinking about the customer, the needs that they had, and what we could do in starting small to support that need. So that's in summary.
Well, there was some people don't remember that one of the, even in the midst of racial segregation years ago, and a lot of hatred that was going on in our community, there was a man named A.G. Gaston that was like one of the in this area. He was a black millionaire, and he had a fundamental thing. He said, "You find a need, and you meet the people's need."
That's right.
And that's how he was able to become a millionaire. And you just made a statement there. I think it's important for everybody to recognize. just look around you and you see a need and you rise to the occasion to meet the need of people. It's about serving. I think you said something about you talk to the customers as you were working at Southern Company. You were working and you talked to people. You saw that they had a need, and then you started figuring out how you could meet that need. Now, tell me. I know you discussed it with your wife. Tell me, like, what would you say to other people out there as to by sharing the steps that you took? You got the idea. You had some money, um, and you decided you would go from that point. You said to your wife, "Okay, here's what I feel like the Lord's leading us to do." Tell me, because I think that's the first thing you had to do was to consult with your wife. Tell me about that. Just
Yeah, for sure. And if I could, just to follow up on what you mentioned, I had to learn this, and you helped me learn this, Bishop. Kind of going back, my wife and I, we did a little real estate. And I tell people, we made some money and we lost some money, when the market crashed. And that's okay. We learned some lessons. But I don't know if I went into that very prayerfully. But with this business, Alabama Industrial, it was focused prayer. I realized that me and my wife had to be on the same page because it was a big step. It was taking some money that we had saved and reinvesting,
mhm,
and a huge step. So that process and talking with her, sharing the idea and the vision for what I thought God was sharing with me, uh, she and I coming to agreement, and bless her heart, she trusts her husband. And when she said, "Okay, let's do this," that's kind of all I needed, Bishop, to go to that next step. But in
mhm,
terms of steps, it wasn't just, "Okay, I got an idea, let me form a company." It was strong part of using wise counsel. I believe in that. The proverb says, "Plans fail for a lack of counsel, but many advisors they succeed." But with many advisors they succeed. I remember talking to Elder Jordan and Pastor Conaway and others, entrepreneurs that I knew of in the field, just to help me think, gain knowledge, kind of learn from their experiences. What were some things just because of lack of experience that I didn't know? So between prayerfully working with my wife, talking with her, gaining agreement there, staying in prayer, getting wise counsel, and then once I felt I had confirmation that God said, "Yes, this is what I want you to do," then it's the nuts and bolts. It's the assessing the business and the opportunities, putting things down on paper, looking at the finances. Uh, can we make money? What are the costs and all those other details? I can go into further detail, but it was kind of that process, Bishop.
yes, I think I was just going to share also with a scripture here is that when the Lord said, and He said, "For which of you intending to build a tower does
Yeah.
not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it?" And that's what you were saying here. I mean, that's the word of scripture that we have to do this. This is in Luke 14 and 28. You count up the cost. You said you did that. And as you had the idea, you said you sat down and you had a business prior to this. That did I understand you say it was not as successful as you wanted to be?
It was not, Bishop. As I tell people, we made money on the front end, but then when the real estate crash happened, we had to just about give up some houses to get out.
Hmm.
Uh, but we learned from that. God was still faithful in that, we didn't lose a whole lot. We were still in great shape, and I'm thankful for that. But the lessons I learned, probably the biggest lessons, um, I use this often with my kids. You can say, "Hey, God, I have an idea. I want you to bless it," or you can go to God, "Lord, what do you want me to do? And
Hmm.
how do you want me to do it?" Versus, "Lord, I want to do this. I need you to bless me." Versus, "Lord, what would you have me to do?" It's a different, in my opinion, it's a different train of thought. You're asking God, "I submit myself to you. Give me your direction. versus I've got this I want to do, Lord, and I want you to bless it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so I had to, it was just a lot of those learnings through the real estate venture that I took and applied to Alabama Industrial, and God's been faithful. He really, really has.
Well, very good. Now, so you calculate this, and let me talk about you. You had to go to a bank, and let's say I'm gonna bring Bobby back on in here at this point, and so you're needing money. How did you figure out how much you had your own savings? And I guess when the first business went down, you took some hits. And
Mhm.
then in order to get this next one, you'd have to go to a bank. What did you think you needed? And then we're going to find out what Bobby has to say, what type of things he would have been looking for. Because I take it, Bobby, you in your career, really as a branch manager, do you decide about monies that people can get for their business? Do you evaluate that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, at one point we did. I did have a lending limit up to about 50,000. And
Hmm.
the way the business I was operating in was heavily consumer and real estate. So making business decisions on commercial, no, I didn't really do a whole lot of that. But some of the lending factors are pretty much the same. So when I hear Brother Will, he's already touched on several areas that I think are critical. If you're going to start a business, you have to give it a lot of thought. You really got to do a lot of soul searching and prayer on whether or not you want to pursue this, because the idea that you can walk into a bank or a credit union and think that you can say, hey, I'm gonna start up a business, I need such amount of money. That's not really true. That's one of the biggest myths that's out there, that you can go out there and just talk to a bank and say they're going to give you money to start up a business. So starting off, you do have to have some type of capital to develop. You've got to use property. You've got to use your personal cash. You've got to ask friends and family, whatever you can get in order to start your business.
Well,
There are, go ahead.
well, let's just say, okay, let me put myself in Will's position. I got this idea, and I'm coming to you now. I know it's a good idea. I prayed over it. The Lord has told me that I can be successful in it, and so I come to you and I say, now, Bobby, look at the, no, no, Mr. Williams. Uh, I need how much would I need to start off, bro? Will?
Let's say $50,000.
Oh, that's a lot. Okay, $50,000. Now, I got faith in myself. Now I come to you, and even if it's just a loan for something, Bobby, as a financial person, what are you going to ask me to? And I know I'm throwing you on the spot, but what are you going to ask me? I'm saying I need $50,000, and you know what? God has told me this is going to be ideal, and if you were if you don't give me the money now, I'll be upset with you. But of course, if you were white, I'd say it was racism that you wouldn't give it to. What are you? What do you expect of me when I come in there?
Well, the number one thing is collateral. You're going to have to give some type of collateral to justify me wanting.
Collateral,
Yes, either collateral or
meaning
that
what's
would
that
be
mean? So the people that might not know, if
sure.
I'm trying, and then we're going to ask Will about this and see what he had to do too.
Well, collateral. The first thing that comes to mind is usually real estate. A lot of people will use home equity lines to try to help establish
Mhm.
some type of line of income or at least capital in order to get your business started. You have to have, you could try to work out something with your credit. You can use your personal credit. You can apply for loans. But you can't walk into a bank without offering something. You have to put something on the table to make this lender feel comfortable lending money to you. Um, it's difficult to do it if you have challenged credit. It's difficult to do if you don't have collateral.
Will, let's go back to that because you brought that up earlier, and you heard what he's saying. Did you have to put anything out to? Is it too personal about your business and what you needed? Did you go to any banks and ask for funding?
Yeah, I was
If it's too
fortunate.
personal, you don't have to say. But
No, no, not at all, not at all. My path was I had some money to start with.
Correct.
And so we started the business, begin to get customers and get some revenue flowing.
Mhm.
So I was able to show that we were making a little money, at the time, just very little money, but I could show that we were making a little money. And I'll never forget my banker. He always says this, that, and I'm sure Bobby kind of said this. He said it's about your history of paying back loans or what have you, credit, and it's about your ability to pay that particular loan back, meaning collateral or what have you. So when we got our first, let's say, a line of credit, it was based on my credit, and it was based on some assets that we had. We had very few, but we did have some inventory that we purchased. So I had to start with something. And it was mainly, to be honest, it was more probably my credit than the little inventory that we had in stock. What he did, he secured that inventory. He said, okay, now well, I don't know the right term, Bobby, but it became collateral for the loan, for the line of credit.
So he took the inventory that you already had and he said, okay, so, and then you're telling me you had good credit to begin with. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, I was fortunate, Bishop. Yes.
Bobby, do you have many people that come in that don't have good credit looking for help to be able to start their business? Does that happen?
Yeah, it happens all the time. The one of the things you have to understand about starting a business, you're not going to generally start off with any type of business loan. You're generally going to, like Brother Will said, you're going to have some type of savings or money down. But there's a couple of things you have to think about. 50% of all businesses fail within the first 5 years of startup. So businesses know that, banks know that. So you're playing against the odds, and that's why I go back to saying that you really have to do a lot of soul searching on whether or not you want to pursue opening up a business. And after you've made that decision that you're going to start a business, you have to look at the barriers of entry. How much is it going to cost me to start this business? What supplies will I need to be lease property? Can I work from home? Can I do online? So you have to take all of that in consideration before you get started with that. Now, I don't want to sound negative about that type of thing, but generally the startup is the most difficult part. After you've established your business and developed maybe a year's worth of revenue, then you can maybe start going to the banks and using the business as a way to borrow money.
So isn't that what you said, Will? You started off, you got some clients, you had money coming in.
Yes, sir.
Then you went to the bank. Okay, so and what I want to come against is many people that believe that they cannot. They make all kinds of excuses. They blame everybody else. But what we're hearing from you is that your faith in God, and we're hearing from Bobby too, that you got to have a track record. Sometimes people are just not against you. You just are not doing the right thing. That's why we're having this session tonight, so people can understand. Many people have great ideas, and I've heard them say, "Well, I went to the bank wouldn't give it to me because they are like this and they're like that." You know how those banks are. And sometimes it's hard to say to people, no, the banker's just making good business decisions. And if they're asking you questions, you got to plan these things. And as Bobby said a minute ago, 50% of the businesses fail. We have an example where Will said, I had a business, real estate, and it went down. But you got back up, Will, you got back up. And that's what's important.
Well, let me point out something in terms of that. If you can get through the first year, then there's opportunities there. There's other online programs such as Cabbage on Deck, and a lot of those.
Cabbage, you mean like?
It's a funding site, and Brother Will, you may have heard of them before.
Yes,
but you can
share that with people so they can know if they're. But you said after they've been doing business for about a year, there are other funding sources that will help them.
Yes, there are funding sources out there that will help businesses, but you have to get through that first year and generate a certain amount of revenue to justify getting business, quote unquote, business loans. That is correct. So Cabbage is online. It's one of those fast funding programs that's out there. But you got to have a certain amount of revenue. You got to generate at least $50,000 in revenue. You got to have a FICO score of about 650 or higher. So there's a few requirements that you would need to do. Also, there are sources out there for, I'm not a big fan of big banks for going for financing, but if you look at community banks in the area, in Birmingham and Alabama, those particular community banks have what we call C&I lenders, which are commercial and industrial lenders that are in-house. And if you have a strong business plan and you can demonstrate that you have been able to generate a certain amount of revenue, you may be able to get somebody to take a shot and maybe give you a loan. But as far as the initial startup, there's more than just having your own money. You can ask for friends and family. Obviously, you could use your collateral. You could use your savings. But the most important thing is making sure you understand the barriers of entry. You really need to know how much it costs to get this business up and running. You have to have a very strong business plan before you even move forward with anything.
Bobby,
Dr. Brown just put up here that it's called cabbage. I tried to look it up with a C. And
Oh,
I
I
said,
meant to say K, yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, she's, she's in finance too. So, but for those of you that are out there looking at this, um, remember what, Bobby, you called it the barriers of entry? Is that what that was?
Barriers of entry. How much would it cost to open this business in this industry? You want to know how much it's going to cost for the supplies. You want to know how much it's going to cost for equipment. You have to kind of break all of that down. And that's when you probably would need to get some assistance. And Brother Will did mention in something in reference to having, mentors and people who have maybe started businesses in similar fashion, similar industries that can help mentor you and give you some feedback on maybe how to go with this process. It's not really wise to try to do this on your own when you're entering a business. If you could find established business owners that you could ask and pull information from, I think that's critical.
Bobby, Bishop, if I can touch on, Bobby touched on something, and I can't say enough how important it is. The business plan. A good business plan really takes into account all of the facets of what you need to consider when starting a business, from the financing, the cost, your marketing plan, the market assessment analysis, who else is selling or has the same service, what are they selling it for? In particular, all of the financials, your revenue, your expenses, your profit, all of that. Uh, if there is a point to start after you feel God has said, yes, move this direction, it is to start getting it down on paper.
Mhm.
Is to write out, your plan, your vision. What are you going to sell? All of the financials, all of that. That is so key. And I actually have a template, what they call a 3-4 page template that I'll be happy to share. But it includes all of those kinds of things that you need to consider. And as Bobby said, to look and say, okay, can this business work? Is it profitable? Does it make sense? And then you have something that you can take to your mentor or to your wise counsel and say, would you review this for me? Because until you get it down on paper, you're really talking through, but you really need to, submit it to paper, and what the word says, let a hare run with it. Um,
Mhm.
that's it.
Yes. So in other words, write it down, and that's what the scripture is saying here. That's Habakkuk 2:2, and make it plain. And so, and then I take this as like a business plan. So we're saying, I got my thought. And so my thought, first thing I need to do, sound like you're telling me, both of you are saying, I have the thought. And before I'm looking for everybody else to do something for me, I need to work it myself so that I get some understanding of what's involved. And as you said, Bobby said earlier that if you got it about going for about a year, then you'll be able to go out there and be able to get some funding. You may be able to get some funding if the business shows that it has an income flow, if it's beginning to look like it has some success. And I think that's true. Everybody wants to invest in success, but I I do think that everyone needs to understand if God is giving you that idea, as it was for you, Brother Will, if God is giving you that idea, then you have the ability to be successful. But there are barriers that you're going to face. Those barriers, and the first thing the Lord says, deny yourself, are to deal with you so that you can stop feeling that you can't do it. Doesn't matter who's against you. If God is for you, who can be against you? And so um, we're talking about you being able to establish your own business. Now, again, I'm going to remind you all, if you got questions, put those questions out there. in the comment section, and we'll ask the brothers also to share. I want you to continue on. So now I've worked it for a year, and I want to get more money so I can do more stuff. Will, have you gone and gotten any advances or to grow your business? Have you seen the need, or how have you come along? It's been what, three? It's been
6 years.
6 years. Yeah.
Yeah, as Bobby mentioned, the toughest part of it is to get started. I'll mention and I'll answer your question directly, Bishop. But again, if you feel that God has led you to this, God will provide the financial need. I believe that 100%.
Hmm.
If you feel He is led and you've confirmed that, it may start your business depending on what it is. Maybe you just need a credit card to start with, or maybe this is a prayerful thought. But if you have a house, you get a second mortgage on your house or small. There are ways to fund it through friends, what have you. So I just wanted to underscore that. But yes, now once you get started and you develop a performance history, a track record of revenue, then things become a little bit easier. So in my case, we had a couple credit cards. I think at the time I may not have had a line of credit, but then I was able to go to the bank, a bank that I had started dealing with, and they could see all of my deposits and everything that goes in and out. And so I think and I don't mind telling you the numbers, we probably started with $50,000 line of credit.
Now, let
And
me ask you that. A 50,000 line of credit, you started. What's that mean? Was this before you put your own personal money in, or is this when you went to the bank and got money? Tell me what you mean, a line of credit.
yes, I'm sorry, Bishop. This was after probably my first year and a half.
Okay, so you've been working your business. You've proven you have a track record. You've kept good records, and you've been running your money through the bank. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So let's answer this real quick. Some people I know I've had in the congregation that don't believe in banks. They don't trust the banks. They keep the money. They keep the cash. So both of you, do you encourage people to use the system?
Yes, that's where everything is now. It's either financially tied to banks or financial institutions, and more people are leaving from banks and going to online services where you can't even walk into a building and conduct their businesses. So, I mean, things are kind of moving in a different direction, than just leaving money under a pillow or anything. That's really your main source of establishing this type of business is having, online services and brick and mortar buildings. That's where you have to go.
And then, Will, you're talking about how establishing my credit, and both of you will talk about that because, some of us are not real good at paying our bills, and yet we got this vision. God's given it to us. What obstacles or barriers do I face if I'm not paying my bills on a regular basis? Now, the reason I can't pay them is because I got too many bills. Should I be thinking about trying to start a business when I'm not good at paying my own bills?
No.
Jump in there.
I'll be honest with you, no. Until you're able to get your house in order, it's hard to go out and venture out on a business because it goes back to soul searching. As a lender, you have to believe in yourself before I'm going to believe in you. And if you've got poor credit and you don't have any collateral and you're asking me for money, how am I supposed to believe that you're really serious in establishing this business? So you've got to have some type of foundation to justify why I want to do business with you.
But Bobby, it's a God idea. I mean, you just got to see it. You got to believe in me. I mean, God has shown me this. I know this will make money. It's going to make money for your bank. Does that hold any water with you?
No, because we go against the data. When you're looking at a lending, we look at patterns. We look at your profile. We look at your history. We've had 100 people with your exact profile. We've had thousands of people say the same thing that you said. And that doesn't have a tendency to favor the financial industry when you come in and say that. The odds are against you.
Okay. Working further from that, Will, you went and got $50,000. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir. Yes,
How did you get to the position that you could get the 50? How many different banks were you going to? Tell me about loyalty and commitment to a relationship with bank and all. How did you go in there and walk and say, give me 50,000?
Oh, that's a good question, Bishop. And it goes back to what I had mentioned earlier, and Bobby touched on it as well. I was fortunate in that I only went to one bank, and that's the bank that I started dealing with. Simply because you asked the question or you mentioned that some people say I don't believe in banks. Well, you can have that perspective, but when you need money and you need to go out and get something from a financial institution, they want to know, well, let me see your statements. Let me see what you have already. And just to be honest, if store your money in a can or something at home, that's going to be a strike against you. And I'm sure Bobby's going to say, well, guys, that doesn't show that you are business ready to start a business. So anyway, going back, I had a banking relationship. They saw my deposits, they saw my withdrawals, they knew what was there. And so that weighed heavily on their decision, along with other things that I had to supply, continued business, that kind of thing. And at the time, I think I had just gotten a contract. And that was the reason why I wanted the line of credit, so that I would have the ability to source some things as that contract grew. So I went to my bank that I had dealt with on a regular basis, and they extended that line of credit.
On a regular basis. So um, then I would think that would mean, Bobby, if you knew a particular person, and this would work for personal loans, I'm sure, because you do personal loans at the credit union, do you not?
That's correct.
Okay. And everyone out there, I believe, from time to time needs a personal loan. And what are the things that you look for when a person comes and asks for money? Uh, and I take it that, as Brother Will has said, he had a relationship with a bank. Do people establish relationships with Delta Credit? And how do you decide? Can you bend the rules sometime? Do you have the ability when somebody knows you, and we'll come back to you on this too, when this particular banker knows you, can you get favor sometime? Do you get favor sometime, Bobby? Uh, to bend the rules sometime. Now, I don't want to get you in trouble, but um, somebody needs some money. And what are you looking for other than their personality, and their friend? I know you can't do something. What are the bare necessities that a person must present if they really want to get some money to do something, personal or business wise?
Well, it really depends on the organization. The credit union is we're a $6-7 billion organization. And when I first got hired there, which was about 13 years ago, you could kind of leverage your relationship with that particular borrower, how long they've been with us, what their income is, and then we would maybe make some decisions based off that relationship. That still does play a part in it now. However, with lending laws and restrictions, we're more centered on trying to make sure we're consistent across the board for all people, regardless of race, background, and those type of things are not as common as they used to be. So if I'm looking at an individual for underwriting purposes, I'm looking at their credit and I'm looking at their ability to pay the loan back.
So you're just looking at the numbers, basically.
You're looking at the numbers, but there are circumstances where it may be a close call and you're not, there may be a few challenges on the credit, maybe a few challenges on the income. However, you've got a great history with us. You've been consistent with your business. Then we may be more willing to take a chance on you. So it's for those razor thin challenges that may prevent you from getting approved, and then we may cross you over the finish line and take a chance on you. So there is a little bit of room for flexibility in underwriting. It just depends on who you're dealing with.
Not like it used to be. And then each institution.
Nowhere near it.
Well, when you went for the 50,000, was it a cakewalk to get that? How did that go through?
No, it wasn't. It was a lot of documentation that I had to provide, although they had all my banking records and so forth. They needed to know my accounts receivable, accounts payable, future contracts, all of that stuff.
So they're all up in your business.
They were all up in my business, Bishop, for sure. But at the end of the day, the numbers, as Bobby said, I think the data was to my favor. Um, and again, I keep going back to what my banker said. It's your credit history and your ability to repay at the end of the day. And so we were at a point where we were growing, bit by bit, and so it just took a little while that first time. I'll say this, Bishop, after we got the first line of credit, and after a year or so, I went back to him and say, "Can you increase this?" Now that process wasn't nearly as arduous. Again, they went, it was probably a week or so, and they increased it. And I have practiced trying to increase it year after year so that, and I don't use it very often, but so that I have the ability to take on some larger contracts. And it's just the ability to take on larger jobs so that we can continue to grow and increase.
So in other words, as you develop that track record,
That's
um, your favor with the bank grows and you're able to do more. So the first time was 50. Um, is it again too personal to ask how much have you really asked for a bank to do for you? Is that
No, not at all. Right now we have $1 million line of credit.
oh, excuse me then. I mean, so you have that much, but at first it was difficult to get a 50,000 and now you're up to 1 million. Encouragement to everyone out there that it can be done. And it's just, you got to have, as you said, he made the statement, yeah, they're all up in my business. You got to make sure you got the right attitude. And if you're doing it right, you go to people like Bobby, bankers and all, and you're asking for that financial support. And Bobby said, hey, it's not as much like it used to be. And for many of us, personally, I would have thought I should have favor because of who I am or whatever. But it comes down to those numbers. And if you ain't got the numbers right, y'all, stop getting upset with the institutions. You got to do your part. You can do this. This is all I try to impress people with, is that if God is for you, who can be against you? And stop letting this world tell you to blame everybody else. It can be done. You have it within you to be successful.
Well, let me add a few things real quick, just to give some quick tips. If you have done the soul searching and you recognize that you do want to start this business, you have to figure out how to start that business up. You will go to the Secretary of State of Alabama and you will establish a business entity and you will let them know, the name of your business. You may already have a name in mind, but it's not hard to actually create a business entity. There is a fee involved, but in Georgia, it's $100. But in Alabama, it could be a little bit different. Then at that point...
Hold on one second, Bob. Will, confirm what he just said, what you did with your name of your business. What did you do?
Yeah, 100%. I agree 100% with what Bobby said. Starting my business is an LLC, and to form your business, it's fairly easy. I mean, you can do it online. I think the fee is like $150, something like that, very similar to Georgia. But that process to formally structure your business is not a huge hurdle at all.
So you get the name of your business and set that aside. And then that's the first thing you work with. Do you open a bank? Bobby, take the next point. And you know where you're going. I'll let you do that.
So the first thing is establishing a business entity. The two simplest versions to review before your next step is whether or not you want to be a LLC, which is a limited liability corporation, or you want to be a sole proprietor. A sole proprietor is a lot easier. There's no legal requirements. You just have to report your income on your personal tax returns. The only drawback to that is that there is some legal ramifications. If you something happens and somebody wanted to sue the business, then effectively they're suing you.
It's a liability associated with it.
Yeah,
personal liability.
Correct. So most people either do a LLC or S corp, but mainly a LLC, which is still the same process to help absolve yourself from the personal liability of the business itself. After you've already done all of that, then you will want to contact the IRS and establish what we call a tax EIN number, which is going to be the Social Security number of the business. And you want to establish that. That doesn't take long. Actually, you can get that in 24 hours from the IRS, maybe less than that. Now that you've done those two things, you officially have a business. Now, what would be the next step if I was you? My step would be to maybe open up some type of a business account, business checking account with a particular institution that you feel like you can have a long-lasting relationship with. Maybe who you already do your personal business with, and ask them what their qualifications are for that. And then at that point, you'll need to start doing your research and trying to figure out, how am I going to get this business started? But if you start up with those three things, you can start putting money into that business account, showing, your income and your revenue, and they can leverage that maybe a year from now. But the key is you got to get through that first year. If you can find a way to build up enough capital through that first year and be successful at it, then things get a little bit easier.
And Will, you decided, and let's go back to the reasons Bobby talked about sole proprietorship versus LLC, S Corp, and all. How did you happen to decide it's not just going to be Will and May's business, but you decided on an LLC? Why? Let's talk about limited liability companies, corporations.
Yeah, a limited liability, the name really states what it offers. It offers you limited liability protection.
So if I sue your company, I can't get Will's money that he's got in his personal account.
My understanding, I think
It's no negligence on your part, of course.
That is correct. I think an attorney would probably say to a point.
Yes, I got you. I do understand.
They call it what the pierce the veil, what have you. But it does offer that protection. You're right, Bishop, from your personal assets, your home and things of that sort. And you do want that protection.
Oh, that's what the meaning is, limited liability. So it's a limited versus if I go out there and I'm doing business as Jim Lowe, then somebody can they'll sue Jim Lowe and they can take everything that's in Jim Lowe's bank account.
That's correct.
But if I'm limited liability, they take if no gross negligence there, they'll take what's in my company's bank account. Correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And I'll say as well, if you really want to be considered a serious business, depending on all of what you do, whether it's a service or selling goods, if you're working with suppliers, or even if you're working with customers and you want to grow that into an industrial or whatever kind of customer, they really want to know that you've got a formal business set up. So not only just the protection of Will Taylor's car wash, if I'm wanting to do car washes for a fleet, I'm just using it as an example, and I'm going to a company and say, I want to wash all your cars. They want to see that you are a formally structured company that has an EIN, like Bobby mentioned, that gives them some assurance that you're not just going to be there today and gone tomorrow. It's all of that in what you're trying to convey to your customer, that you're serious and you're real. So I agree 100% with Bobby said. You need to set up a formal company. LLC is probably the easiest method of setting up a business. You can do that in a week or two.
When I was younger, and my background was business, I used to play in the band. I got audited by the IRS when I was in the 10th grade. They had a guy to come out to my house. An agent came to my house because I was playing in the band. I wasn't making that much money, but they audited me. And for a few years, and I'm saying this to everyone that's out there because I know how we all think. For a few years, I continued making money in the band, and I did it on a cash basis, and I hid my money, and I didn't set up an account. And later on, when I was fearful of getting caught and going to jail, I talked with someone, a tax accountant, and he said, Jim, just do it right. The system has enough loopholes in it that you can do well using the system. Do the right thing. And what I started doing was I set up an account. I set the bank. I did everything that you guys are talking about right now. And I established my band and I made it official. And what I want to say to everybody is that I found more benefits in the system than I did trying to rob the system. So I want to encourage everybody, you need the wisdom that can come like from Dr. Brown, Bobby, mentors and talking to others. You need that information because if that guy hadn't told me that, I probably would have still been trying to hide from the government. But if you do it right, there are enough abilities, enough things out there because the government is skewed to the people who have. Those that have will get more. So you learn to work the system. so that you can benefit your own family. Now, let me go to another place here. Um, the question would be talking to others. I think Dr. Brown asked the question about your financial records and keeping them in order. Do you think, now for me, well, no, I'm gonna let y'all answer. You got to have good records. So does that mean I need to go and get me an accountant? Not me, I don't want to do that, uh, there it is. To get your financial records in order is vital. But how do you suggest I do that? Can I go get me a software program and keep my? What do y'all tell me to do?
I don't know if I would recommend that on your startup business. I do think you need to get a tax professional, because what you've got to do is make sure that the finances are reflective of whatever revenue that you have. It really depends on the business. If it's a cash-based business, you're going to probably need an accountant, because you got to make a determination of whether or not those funds should be back into the business, whether or not you would want to pay yourself out of the business. You really need some type of an accountant to determine what's the best course to take. After you've established within that first year, you want to get a foundation started.
But they're gonna cost me money.
Yeah, it's going to cost you money, but that's all cost. Hey, that's all based off what I mentioned, that the barriers of entry. That's taken into consideration when you're starting your business, that you're going to probably have to hire a tax professional, because you got to keep in mind, you got audited in 10th grade. You can get audited in your first year. And that's where most audits come from, is from small businesses. They go and audit small businesses to see whether or not you're hiding any money, whether or not the incomes are inflated. And you have to make some decisions, especially if you're looking to lend, or you're going to have to borrow for future capital. You can't have your business showing losses and these different things if you expect for somebody to give you a $50,000 line of credit within that first year or two. So yes, you need a tax professional for sure, or if not, an accountant.
Let me ask Will almost a similar question. Will, I know you're a smart man and everything. Do you think I need to go out there and get somebody that's going to take my money from me? I mean, what do you do, bro? I mean, you're smart enough. You don't need nobody else but you, do you?
Well, I'll answer it in a couple different ways. I agree 100% with Bobby. If your ability, experience, expertise does not lend itself to the financial piece, you need to reach out for help, for one. Me personally, my business, we deal with a lot of, we call them widgets. We sell a lot of things, and so my financials can get real complicated. I have an accountant that balances my books every month, mainly for year-end tax purposes. It gets real sticky. So if you've got some expertise, there may be an opportunity to use. We started out with QuickBooks. QuickBooks Online, what have you. It's a great tool. It's more of a financial management tool, but it can handle your services and receipts and all of that stuff. And I go a little further. We're certified through several agencies, through the Department of Transportation, through Minority Business, and so forth. Through the Department of Transportation for Alabama, they offer, once you get certified, let's say as a minority, for minority businesses, they offer free QuickBooks help. Early on, it was a lady that came and spent probably 16, 24 hours going through the infinite details of QuickBooks. So, and that was free. Certification through DOT is all free. So that being said,
DLT?
DOT, the Department of Transportation. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So my quick answer is, unless you've got really, really good experience and knowledge and you're financially astute, I agree with Bobby. You really need to reach out for an accountant, especially a tax accountant, to help you. Now, it's always that do loop of, well, I got to make money in order to afford this person. I can't afford this person until I make the money.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say you can get that service where they're not doing everything for you. And it may just be the cost of filing your taxes at the end of the year. And they do some things on a monthly or bi-monthly basis to help you make sure that you're in line. So you can scale it back. You don't have to just, give all your money. You can scale it back. But to Bobby's point, you want that expertise. That's the key. Somebody that has that expertise that can keep you out of trouble.
All right. Here's another question we got from Ms. Claudia. She said, I have a girls mentoring group. Can I apply for an LLC even if it's nonprofit? Let's answer that question first of all. Who wants to answer that one?
The answer to your question, yes, you can. You can establish LLC and it considered a nonprofit, which could be a lot of pluses because it does open it up for other government programs that you may be able to qualify. And for grants, it just depends on exactly what that particular nonprofit does. So you will probably go a different direction in terms of trying to build capital. What you will want to do is find you a good grant writer and somebody who can maybe write grants and petition to those programs that are available to help bring in money. So actually, that's the way to go if you're trying to establish a nonprofit that can benefit the community.
She said I spent a lot of personal funds to purchase T-shirts. And so you're saying that actually, if she's an LLC, nonprofit, bona fide, record straight, she can possibly get money from a lot of other sources that could purchase those T-shirts and other supplies that those girls need.
That is correct.
Oh, you hear that, Claudia? That's good.
Mm-hmm. Get a grant writer. And a lot of these people out there, you just got to find a really good one that can have access to, they know where to go to find these grants. And that's who you want to talk to.
Well, I bet you our Dr. Brown out there probably could do some research on that kind of stuff too, and do that. Now, Will, you're a for-profit business, and that's and there's a difference. People might need to make that decision whether they should be a nonprofit or a profit. Can you guys make distinctions between Will's for-profit? Just kind of, Will, if you as a for-profit person, and Bobby, you spoke well to going for grant. How about you speak to the nonprofit, Bobby, and Will, you speak to the profit, since that's what you do, so people can understand the difference.
Yeah, a profit for profit is simply a business that is not limited to the amount of money it can make and the compliance requirements associated. We have the ability to show a profit and to make as much profit, and then of course having to pay taxes on it. And so, Bobby, I'll let you make the distinction of a nonprofit, and I'll plug in where I may have missed a
Well, the nonprofits say mean we don't make money, right?
No, that's not true.
That's not correct.
Not true. Nonprofits make money. It's what they do with the money. And typically the true definition of a nonprofit is that the profit is reinvested back into the business for the benefit of those who benefit from the program. And that's how you justify. You may be in charge or own the nonprofit, but it's not for any type of self-benefit, but it goes back into the business for the benefit of others.
And I want everybody at Guiding Light to know that's exactly what Guiding Light is. It is not a for-profit business entity. It is a nonprofit, and that what we do is we put it back into the community. We put it back into goods and services for you, such as what this program is tonight. And when you do give, you're giving to a nonprofit. It's not about making money. We have, and I must admit, we have done very well with the quality of staff that we have and the people that are in the church that come up with these wonderful ideas and services that we're doing for people. And when people see the services to the community, then they contribute and we take it and we become a blessing to others. So if you're a nonprofit, it's what you're doing for other people. For instance, Minister Natalie Washington has a nonprofit. And as we see, Brother Will has a profit. But now let me tell you, let's go to another point here, Brother Will. The importance of supporting the kingdom of God in this process of what, in doing your business. How important has your relationship and what have you done in conducting of your business in relationship to God, who gave you the idea? Let's talk about that, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. I tell you, there are two things we we talk about here at the office quite a bit. One is being a tither. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. That scripture, Malachi, I believe it. God taught me this when I was about 2021, and He has been faithful through it. Also, giving. Giving it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, so forth. We talk here. My desire is to be what I call a compulsive giver, because I believe it, and and I sort of test God. I try not to do it to get, but every opportunity we can give, it's to me just demonstrating my faith that I know God can give it back, and He'll give it back in many ways. And so it really fits into what we were talking about, kind of why I did this in the first place. It was to build something that would be a blessing and be an example for a lot of folks. And part of it is giving. Part of it is being a blessing to the team here. And I believe in that strongly. I really do. So I hope that's answering your question, Bishop.
Well, now you're saying something there. You started off with 50,000, and now you got the ability to get 1 million. So obviously, you've been doing something right. Obviously, it's the favor of God that's on
Yes.
you. You are actually a living proof that when people do what God says do, there's a return. And as I said in my earlier days, when I was in the band, I was doing things underhandedly. It wasn't right. And God's just not going to honor something that's not honoring Him. And I did talk to an accountant. I didn't pay him. I took him to lunch, and he just said, "Do the right thing, and you'll find." And as I started studying, I found that the system is set up for those that are prospering. If you can ever get on board, brothers and sisters, like Brother Will, 50,000 here, doing the right things with God, God will favor you. You honor Him, and you do the correct things. And now he's up to $1 million that he can get. Probably next year, next few years, he'll be talking about 5 million. Uh, One thing, what is the largest corporation that you're serving now with your small business?
Well, I tell you, it is Southern Company.
So you
Uh,
got deals with Southern Company.
oh, I have quite a bit. They're our largest customer. And God has opened up a whole lot, and he's doing some things right now. And so it started probably a year after we started the business, that we were fortunate to get a contract for some stuff. The contracts allow you to continue to do the same, sell the same thing. And so at any rate, it's Southern Company by far. That's Alabama, Georgia Power, and all the
Wow.
different subsidiaries and business units.
Let me
We,
ask you something, Will. I suppose you weren't acting a fool on the job when you were there, right?
well, I probably wanted to, but no, I think no, no. I was. It was a blessing to me. Here's an important point. I think this is where you're going, Bishop. When I retired early from Southern Company, I wanted to
You
make.
retired, brother. Wait a minute.
Yeah, believe it. I started when I was real young, Bishop. I started at
Very
19.
nice retired.
Yeah,
And work for God the Father ain't no way out, but go
yeah. But my point was, I wanted to make sure I left right.
ahead.
I tell some young people, I said, I didn't want to make a decision because I was just ready to leave my job. I thought that wasn't right. God had knocked me upside the head enough to let me know that I needed to leave when He said to leave. And that was important to me because I, tried some other things. But so that being said, I want to say that I left well, and they welcomed me back to sell, and they're opening a lot of doors. And so that's just favor. Just favor.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, well, we're getting to a point. I mean, where I probably need to start bringing it to a close. It's been good talking with you guys, and um, we're going to have to get you back to talk more about this business and banking. That is exactly what it is. It's like money and banking things. You're reminding me of things I learned when I was younger. Um, Bobby, I want to give you an opportunity to say some concluding statements. I will say to everyone out there too that I am very pleased with what Bobby has done. And I have not been, as I've said it with Jim and I've said it with Adrian, I've not been the best of a father that I could possibly do. Um, and Bobby has done a marvelous job. He's doing well. He's well respected in the community. Not much that I can say other than the fact he did that on his own. And it's the foundation that I know he's had. He would come to church, um, and he believed in the Lord, and the Lord is taking care of him. And I am blessed to have him as a son. Um, and I know that I didn't give him a silver spoon or anything, but he's worked for it. And that's an encouragement to me to try to encourage every one of you all. You may not have everything like you think you ought to have, but that does not stop you from excelling. Bobby, I don't want to say too much more than that part because I expose myself, but that's what I do with my congregation. I'm not perfect. But let me give you a few moments to give some concluding remarks and encouragement to everyone else.
Mhm. Well, yeah, one of the things as far as the business is concerned, make sure you do a lot. I can't stress that enough. You have to do some soul searching of this is something that you want to do. You have a passion for it. And if you have a passion for it, you're going to have to commit yourself in a lot of different ways. Because like I said before, 50% of all businesses fail within that first 5 years. Some of it's capital, some of it is just not investing the time in order to make the business successful. So just make sure that this is something that you really want to do. In addition, you need to understand the barriers of entry. I can't stress that enough. Ensure that you know how much it's going to cost, or at least an estimate of how much it's going to cost to enter this market. Also understand that financing doesn't come easy. You have to believe in yourself before a bank will, and you have to show and justify that you're doing what you can to support this business in order for it to be successful. So those are just some three key things. And one more point there I can mention too. There are government programs out there that do encourage commercial lenders to lend to businesses, but it's still predicated on getting through that first year and demonstrating that you can earn enough revenue to qualify. So those are some key things that are key for you to be successful in this role.
A question along that line, government programs. Are there any programs set up for specifically African Americans that I might
I'm
look for either one?
sure. I'm not sure. That's kind of outside my arena. What I can tell you is that there is the Small Business Administration program, which they encourage lenders to lend to small businesses, which would mean, let's say, for instance, you need $10,000 and you're considered a small business. They would try to incentivize other community banks or financial institutions to lend to you by insuring or subsidizing a certain amount of that money. So you may need 10,000. The government may tell Wells Fargo, "Hey, lend this to Jim Lowe, and I will give you $3,000 or $4,000 back if he defaults on the loan." So that would encourage lenders to try to lend to more small businesses.
Well, I want everybody to know, even when Guiding Light was, I had to do a lot of finagling in order to get the funds that we got to do the project that we have here. Um, and there are certain, where there's a will, there's a way. You can make it happen, but you've got to recognize you got to do the things that are right. Will, any concluding remarks that you want to say to our brothers and sisters now?
Yeah, let me just follow up. You asked about the government opportunities or government favor.
Minority business loans and stuff like this?
Yes,
If you know, yeah.
I touched on it just briefly. If you're a minority and you're starting your business or want to start your business, I'd highly suggest and be happy to help. But there's some certifications that you can get through the DOT. It's a diverse business enterprise certification, and also through another national minority supplier certificate. What that allows you to do is that for certain customers, I know the city of Mobile, Mobile County, Southern Company, many others, there is initiatives to really encourage diverse minority businesses. And some really, really go that next step. And I won't get into details, so I just want to mention that. But let me just share, just in closing. Uh, we talked about the money that you need up front and things and the get start and so forth. If you'd asked me, it wasn't about the money I needed. It wasn't about the education. It wasn't about having worked for Southern Company, because the money that I had saved, I used a good portion of it, if not most of it, near all of it, the first year without really getting revenue coming, with the first 6 months in particular. I had to, I hate to always be spiritual, but this has been a spiritual walk. God had to work on me and prune me. And when he got me to a point to where I said, okay, Lord, whatever you want me to do, he opened up some opportunities, in particular, a contract that I just threw some numbers out and didn't expect to win. And that opened a great door within Southern Company. And then from there, God just began to build. And so it had so much less of what I did versus what he did. But I did have myself prepared, meaning credit and those kinds of things, that there weren't hindrances that would hurt me from growing. So I just say that if God has led you that direction, don't fear. Don't fear. God can and he will do it. Trust me. Um, I'm an example, and probably a poor example, but God worked with me and he did some great things.
All right. We didn't make mention of the legal side of it, making sure we perhaps might want to take that up on another occasion too. Um, and because we do have resources in the church, like I mentioned, Dr. Brown, we got Attorney Davis. There's information that you might be able to do there. And for all the rest of Guiding Light, please know that Brother Will is there. You can talk to him, and though COVID's been around, Bobby hadn't been to the church since COVID's been going on, but he'll be there. He'll be around. You'll be able to talk to him about what you might need to do in putting your portfolio together and things of sort like that. So, all of that being said, let's see. I'm trying to make sure I have one thing. Dr. Brown wanted you to see is that the CDFI. Let's see. Um, what is that? For financial institutions to help underserved communities. They provide microloans. There are opportunities out there. You just have to prove yourself determined enough to do it. I want you to know, I want every one of you to know, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. But you must rid yourself of excuses. As Brother Will said, I heard him say his word. He said, I basically went through all my savings in order to get where I am now. Some of you think it's easy. It's not a piece of cake. And as Bobby said, there are barriers that are there that you have to break through. And those barriers are common with all people. Don't take it personal. Satan is out there to destroy you. You can have the victory. And I say to everyone that's in Guiding Light, you can have the victory because you were created to excel and not fail.